I've got an original cabinet.
The story in Cole Younger's autobiography of where he says that he and 300 others took the black oath at the Luther Mason house in Jackson County. John Newman Edwards in Noted Guerillas says that 300 men were sworn into Quantrill's command and attached to Jo Shelby at this location. So probably what it was a recruiting station. And
yeah, it says we took the oath, perhaps 300 of us, down on Luther Mason's farm, a few miles from where I write now, where Colonel Hays had encamped after independence. So that was after the Battle of Independence.
right, it was.
And there's a creek down over here between where we lived and their place, and so they probably camped around that creek, I would think.
Well, if there were 300, they were probably camping everywhere. Some say this is right at the oldest house in Jackson County. And is that?
Well, that's what we had.
Yeah, there's newspaper articles that reference that, dating back to the 1960s, and
still being used as a residence. I think the oldest house still being used as a residence.
What are the dates on this house?
we don't really know for sure. We know that Luther Mason legally acquired the land somewhere in the 1838 to 1842, somewhere in there. But then, to our awareness, it's somewhat conjecture as to what point the house was built. Sometimes they built homes before land was officially, legally set up. Sometimes later. It's a frame-built home. It looks like it was built in two parts. The back half has logs for the floor joists, whereas the front half has true milled lumber, and there's a rock wall that runs right smack down the middle of the house. So it looks like the back half, where you see that chimney there, at one time was a one-story home with a chimney on each end. And then they came along at some other point in time, we don't know when, doubled it to the front, and at that time it would make sense that they added the second floor as well. So our understanding is that the land and the home was acquired in 1857 by the Wallace family from Luther Mason. That came up from Kentucky as well, and that isn't actually a contradiction to what you just read there, because farms were often referred to in the sense of who built the farm originally. Legal records seem to indicate that the Wallaces purchased the home in 1857, shortly before the Civil War. The son of that family was a man named William Hockaday Wallace, who actually went on to quite a bit of notoriety in the area and owned a couple of mansions in Kansas City. Eventually became a prosecuting attorney for the area, and he actually was the prosecuting attorney for the Frank James trial up in Gallup. So supposedly he lived here as a boy during the Civil War, except for Order Number 11, when they had to leave for 2 or 3 years, and came back, and we're happy to find that this was one of the places that hadn't been burned. And of course, most homes that were here before the Civil War were burned during the Order Number 11 period. And
they have 950 acres.
Yeah,
like
there's over 900 acres at the peak of the farm, so it would have encompassed quite a large area. But other than that, it's original. I mean, the lapboard, if you see something that looks old, like the lapboard on that's original lapboard, and it's walnut. If you see something like over here on the right of that bay that looks, more clean, that's replaced, and that's cedar. But when we purchased the place, all the lapboard was original. I mean, literally.